eye on as this program has been turning around. We've all seen the signs of it, I think, this year, and it would be so cool of them if they can go straight to the queue instead of having to play those that home and road first round. Even though there's a couple days off, that's always funky the way the MAC tournament is set up because you have to play it in. Even though Bowling Green, for what it's worth, are probably in a position where that game would be at Stroh instead of going on the road, you still, of course, don't want to have to play it if you don't have to. And if you could essentially put yourself as one of the top 4 teams in the MAC, well, that's showing the progress that I think we're all kind of looking for. Todd Walker, voice of the Falcons, joining us here on the Extravaganza. And that kind of makes me think of one last kind of almost philosophical question. It certainly we'll end up probably getting into this more as the next couple of weeks go by because it's 3 weeks from now, give or take, is Selection Sunday. And obviously the Falcons are in a position like anybody in the MAC. They'd have to win the conference tournament to get that kind of bid. That's going to be a tall order. I think nobody really questions that. But below those tournaments, there is, as far as I know, I haven't seen anything to say otherwise, even though most people are unaware that these things even exist. There are 2 tournaments below the NCAA and even the NIT. And with the Falcons at 16-11 overall, assuming they don't stumble, in fact, let's just say they do what we were kind of outlining. Say they win these next couple, Buffalo's meaningless, but that's 3 more wins, and then as long as they don't bow out in round 1 of the MAC tournament, they're going to have an above 500 record overall. And that's something these littler tournaments who field their whole tournaments based on some of these smaller leagues, that Bowling Green might be able to get a bid to one of those. Now, again, I know we have more time down the line probably to talk about this kind of concept, but how important would it be for the program, even though a lot of us joke that there's more tournaments besides the not important NIT, but I think that would be a very good thing for this program to be able to go and play in one of those. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say that the die is almost cast with that they will play in one of those if they get an invite. If they don't run the table in the MAC tournament, they certainly don't have a shot at an NCAA at-large bid. You're not going to get even an NIT at-large bid. At that point, the regular season champ would get the automatic bid to the NIT if that team doesn't win the tournament. So I would say the program is at a point where it would want to accept one of those bids to the CBI or the CIT. Sometimes it doesn't make as much sense for what type of team you have. If you had an older team that had really been a contending team coming into the season and now it's a bit of a disappointment, maybe you don't want to continue playing. And this team, I think, would be highly of a mind they would want to continue playing. So I would pretty much make plans for that scenario to happen if they don't win the MAC tournament. I think they're very much ready to move into one of those other tournaments should that invite come, and I think it would. You're right about having a winning record. That would be key. Really, if they win one more game, they could not fall below 500 then after that. If you get to 17 wins, they would lock in a winning record. So that would be first thing to do, and I would say the CBI would be the one I would think is the most likely.
And that's a very interesting dynamic you lay out because you're right. An older team, a lot of juniors and seniors on a type of team that maybe was contending in their conference before, and this would be viewed as a kind of a down, a fallback kind of season. They might not play, but a program like the Falcons, younger team like they are, trying to establish something here. I gotta believe if they get an invite, they will with smiles on their face accept that bid just to keep playing some basketball and get that tournament kind of feel. I think it would be just the kind of thing, Todd, that I think would be really, really good and cool for this program, even if most people don't even realize these other tournaments below the NIT even exist. They're out there, and you are so right. The Falcons look primed to be a possible participant in one of those. Todd Walker, he is the voice of the Bowling Green Falcons. Catch all of his great calls of the Falcons all season long through the MAC tournament, and it sounds like maybe through one of these other possible postseason tournaments after that. Todd, we always appreciate the time. We'll certainly catch up with you down the line into MAC tournament time. How's that sound?
That sounds great, Jim. Thanks.
That is Todd Walker, voice of the Bowling Green Falcons, joining us. And that's why, now we're getting to the end of March. We got 1 week left, before the calendar flips to March. And that's when a lot of our attention really goes to these things. And this is the type of question I've been holding off for a couple weeks, not just for Todd, but for head coach Michael Huger as well, because Yes. First of all, folks, as far as I know, there are still such a things as the CBI and the CIT for these smaller conferences below even the NIT. I know we all like to joke that the NIT is the not important tournament, and we all kind of know that that's true. And that some of you were even stunned to probably find out that there are actually college basketball tournaments even below the NIT. So they don't have the kind of luster. But yeah, if the Falcons could be above 500, which looks almost certain at this point, and if they can do some things that Todd was outlining, like win some of these next couple of games because of Akron, Kent State, and Ohio all being a little bit down, and then you close the season with Buffalo, I mean, you put yourself in a position where you're possibly top 4 in the conference. That gets you a bye to the queue for the MAC tournament, and that plus an above 500 record, and being a more up-and-coming team, meaning likely to accept one of those bids, means that the CBI and the CIT people are probably very much looking into the possibility of having a team like Bowling Green play in one of their tournaments. And again, even though we all joke about anything that's not the NCAA tournament, and again, some of you probably aren't even aware these other two actually exist, and for the record, they do. This will be like the 5th or 6th season that each of these tournaments has existed. Yeah, I know. But it would be so good, I think, for a program like the Falcons to be able to play in one of these tournaments. You know, it's a young team. We've all more or less been thinking it. Even Coach Michael Huger has more or less alluded to this in our conversations with him, that next year is the real year that the program is circling to, in theory, do some damage and really contend. This is the jump start season, in theory, on paper, for all of that. And if you can cap it off, even if it's just the CIT or the CBI, if you can cap it off after all this, be above 500, at least not lose in whatever your first game in the MAC tournament is. Right now, they are, as Todd pointed out, they have beaten Eastern, Western, and Kent State. So technically, there are 4 teams at 7-7. Bowling Green has the tiebreaker. They come in right now as the one team that gets the bye, along with Buffalo, Toledo, and Ball State, to the queue in Cleveland for the MAC tournament. So a CBI or CIT looks at all those things and says, that's the type of team we're looking for one of these tournaments. We know a lot of you fans out there don't care as much or don't even realize some of these exist. But for a program in the state where the Falcons are, playing in one of those is, I think, huge for the future of the program. It gets you used to that, not just conference tournament play kind of thing. It gets you used to playing good teams, because for what it's worth, a lot of these teams, they're smaller schools. That's why they're, those in smaller leagues that might only send one team to both the NCAA and NIT. And so where do the rest who might have almost 20 wins go? Well, they go to one of these to play some postseason basketball, and especially if you're a young team and a program that's trying to build something the way the Falcons are. And again, we've been seeing it all season long, the beginnings clearly of the program going in a good, different place. And you want to be actually involved in one of these tournaments. It does nothing but give the kids that better experience. Plus, just like in football, going to a bowl game, if you're head coach Michael Huger, you're looking for any excuse to keep the guys together, to keep practicing, to keep your season going as long as possible. So I hope that after we get through these next 3 weeks, 2 regular season, 1 of the MAC tournament, that we see Bowling Green's name on a line, at least in the CBI or CIT. And I have to check with Todd and the rest of the BG guys, but I'm pretty sure we would have any CBI, CIT Falcons games for you over on Talk Radio 100.7, your home of the Falcons. And that's going to do it for this Tuesday edition of the Extravaganza. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Mike Miller, Drive Times, coming at you next. And then immediately following Drive Time, Bill Clark and the crew will have a great set of calls for you. The City League semifinals. It's a tradition, of course, here in Toledo in the old City League. 6 o'clock. That all gets underway right after Drive Time here in the tickets. Start versus Woodward, then Rogers versus Bowser. Because of the City League semis, we had to move Ohio State against Rutgers. That's on tonight, 6:30 coverage time. That's over in Talk Radio 100.7. And then for you Night Owls, we'll cap it off on the ice, Olympic style. The U.S. survived last night to play another day. That another day comes tonight at 10, courtesy of our friends at Westwood One right here on 100.7, because we'll have the Olympic recap show 10 to midnight here on the ticket. So 10 o'clock, 100.7. Can USA keep it going? Quarterfinal matchup against the Czech Republic from the Olympics. So lots of fun action for you tonight. Stick around. Mike Miller's on Drive Time next, and we'll do it all again for a super fun Wednesday tomorrow. See you then.